One of my mom's big quotes of my youth was, "Don't be cattle." And I write about it in my book, Wisdom from Mama, available on Amazon. The story is that when I was I would say about 10 or 12, junior high school age, we would go to the grocery store every day. And this is when we lived in Central Texas. I was a country girl from way back. So, the "don't be cattle" comes from being country, or as Lainey Wilson would say, country. And so we would go to the grocery store almost every day. My mama would buy groceries, for the day, not necessarily the week, because we didn't really have the money to buy for the week. And so you can tell the country's coming out of me when I start talking about it, right? And so, usually mama would go and she'd just write a check. This is back for you young people. We used to write checks. We didn't have plastic to buy everything. We'd write checks. And so she'd write a check for our groceries every day. And one day, I remember it like it was yesterday, she wrote her check, and the little cashier, bless her heart, I felt kind of bad for her, the little cashier asked her for her Social Security number. And Mama had never been asked for her Social Security number when she wrote a check all the other days. And my mama was famous for throwing fits. She did not go along to get along. And so this lady asked her for her Social Security number, and my mama said, "You didn't need my Social Security number yesterday. Why do you need it today?" And the poor little lady was just doing what she was told, and she replied as such. And mama said, well, get Bob, the manager, right on over here. You go tell Bob that I want to see him, because I am not giving you my Social Security number. So poor Bob, the manager, comes over and says, "Mrs. May, what's going on?" "Well, yesterday you didn't need me to give you my Social Security number when I wrote my check. And now today, somehow you need me to give you my Social Security number to write my check." And mama went on and on and on. And here I am, 10 or 12 or something, and I am shrinking, because mama got louder and louder and louder, and I'm shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And of course, by the end of this, she has made a complete scene. Everybody in H-E-B, for those of you who aren't in Texas, maybe you don't know about H-E-B, but it is the world's greatest grocery store, only available in Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas, including the grocery stores. But back then, in the early 80s, it was not quite as big as it is today. But poor Bob, the manager, I don't really know Bob's name, but I'm making that up. Bob, the manager, by this point had a problem, because he's got this woman who is getting louder and louder and louder, protesting giving her Social Security number on her check when she didn't have to do it the day before. And now everybody in the H-E-B hears all about my mama not wanting to give her Social Security number. And sure enough, mama wins the argument of the day and doesn't have to give her Social Security number that day. And out we go with our groceries, and some high school dude, hauling our groceries to the car like they did back then. And mama's kind of lagging behind him, and I'm walking behind mama, and I'm like wanting to die, because some cute high school football player is hauling our groceries out to the car, and little junior high me is wanting to hide because mama's just made a scene. And mama leans down to me, and she winks and she grins, and she whispered, "Michelle, don't be cattle." And what she meant by that was, you don't go along to get along. Just because somebody tells you to do something doesn't mean you have to be compliant. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And you don't have to be nice and do it just because they tell you to. You don't have to go along to get along. Don't be cattle, because you know what happens whenever you're cattle? Do you know what happens, Aaron, when you're cattle?
What happens when you're cattle, Michelle?
What happens when you're cattle, according to mama, is that you're following we'll say tail of the cow in front of you. And when you follow the tail of the cattle in front of you, what ends up happening is the cow in front of you follows the cow in front of them, that follows the cow in front of them, that ends up at the cow factory, that ends up on the bun with the lettuce and the tomatoes and the sesame seeds on the bun. So you don't be cattle.
Yeah, no, that's insane. So they would just casually ask for Social Security number in a grocery store? That sounds so foreign.
I know. Today that sounds really foreign because we're so protective of our Social Security numbers. But at the very, 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 very beginning of check fraud, they just were trying to have some method of identifying you, that you are who you say you are. And so the very first method of that was Social Security numbers. Very quickly came driver's licenses that they would ask for instead of socials, because many people like Mama protested giving you their social for good reason.
Yeah,
Mama
yeah.
had good reason for protesting.
Exactly.
And did not go along to get along. And I don't think she ever gave them her Social Security number. She did a very similar thing in Best Buy one day when I was in high school, when they asked for her social. But, many people were protesting that. Maybe not quite in the way my mama did, but very effectively. And so then they started asking for driver's license.
So there's two different places I want to take this conversation. First, on just like the transactional side, like checks as a form of like legal, or as a form of like just transaction to like pay for something. Obviously, that's starting not to become a thing as much anymore. Do you still find yourself writing checks? What do you think about the whole exchanging money through the format of a check in 2026? Like,
I guess I'm going to answer that in the reverse.
Yeah.
I am concerned about our country, America, transacting everything electronically, because when you're transacting electronically, there's a monkey in the middle. And every time there's a monkey in the middle, we get farther and farther away from our monetary system. Our country's monetary system was based originally on gold. Now, Trump there for a while talked about maybe going and finding the gold in the Federal Reserve, and I think he finally gave that up. Maybe he went and looked and it isn't there and he doesn't want to tell us. But, originally we were transacted as a monetary system on the concept that there was gold in the Federal Reserve that 100% backed our dollar. And I don't think that's where we're at anymore. And so now money is this fiction. Money is a fiction now. So a dollar could be this pen, it could be cigarettes in prison, right? Like the system of money is all a fiction now. And so what has happened is we almost never transact in dollars and green dollars. We don't transact in checks anymore. And some banks even charge you for transacting in checks, because they want you to transact in plastic or in electronic funds so that they can be the monkey in the middle, so they can charge you for using your money. And can I just tell you, if my daddy were here, I learned everything in life. I learned everything about life from my mama, but I learned everything about business and money from my daddy. And if my daddy were here, he would go off right now about having a monkey in the middle of your money. And, having the bank sit, or we could say any of it, like whatever bank we want to call it, whether it's Bank of America or whether it's these new forms of banks that we're going to learn about in the next week or two. Isn't it in a week or two that they're going to pass the Clarity Act?
Let me check.
But my daddy would say, that the further away we are from taking a dollar and trading it for the thing you're trading for, like the more that people are getting their hands in your money. And, when we were back in like a rural farming community, you might trade chickens, for somebody fixing your tractor.
Like the barter system.
A barter system. Like that is the most pure system, monetary system there is a barter system. But the reason we got away from that is the IRS couldn't get their piece of a barter system. Like if you're bartering now, you're supposed to give the IRS a piece because that's technically considered income. And so then we started trading in cash for transactions so that the IRS could charge sales tax or charge, get their piece of it, and the government can get their part. And now we trade in these electronic dollars so that not only the government can get their part, but Visa can get their part, and Bank of America can get their part, and like everybody, all the monkeys in the middle can get their part.
Yeah, we're just getting fleeced left and right. No, I think that was obviously not the plan in terms of the topic that we wanted to cover
You didn't
today.
expect me to go all those places.
No, but it's interesting. I found that the other kind of direction I wanted to take, just that that interaction that you shared at HEB was just like, as a younger woman, like as a kid in the moment that you were just like a kid at that time, your mother, kind of not necessarily making a scene, but like standing on business kind of publicly. How, my mom, she does this thing where, in Turkey, it's very common practice to like try to negotiate the price of something, right? Like you kind of go back and forth and then you come down to something that you agree on. It's obviously not a thing in retail America, but she'll come and be in Nordstrom's being like, no, how about like trying to haggle the price? And I get so uncomfortable, but she just and this is like when I was younger too. She's not like doing it as much, but you know, she also had that mindset, like, no, life is what you make it. Like the rules are what you make them. Sometimes you don't have to listen. Obviously it's a little bit of a different scenario, but how did you like handle that with your mom? What did that teach you, seeing her kind of be on her, you know, standing on business in public? Like, do you now take that with you? Can you just break that down for me?
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, I love the phrase standing on business now. I love that modern phrase because my mama embodied that. I mean, now she did it very loudly and maybe a little bit too aggressively, but everything that I have become, I probably could link back to some of those moments. Like her in that HEB, standing on her business loudly and aggressively and absolutely unapologetically. And then leaning down and teaching me the lesson on the way to the car, grin and winked and said, don't be cattle. Like that moment. Now, understand, like here I am all these years later, I'm not gonna tell you how many. And all these years later, like that was a formative lesson for me. Whenever I'm in a courtroom and a judge is trying to push me around or, you know, somehow intimidate me to back down, I don't back down because I got Sandy May in my blood. I remember the HEB when my mama didn't back down and then said, don't be cattle. Like I got don't be cattle running through my head. That whenever a male lawyer is trying to intimidate me, or I had this one woman one time that was really tall and I'm not going to say like large, heavy, but she was just a
big body. Yeah.
I'm a tiny woman.
Yeah.
I'm short, I'm petite, framed. This woman was tall and like just a bigger woman. And she like literally leaned over and physically tried to intimidate me one time.
She was trying to size mock you. That's what they call it.
Oh, size mock. Yes.
Yeah,
this woman tried to size mock me. And I've had men do it too. But it was interesting for a woman to try to do that to me. But whenever that happens and somebody tries to physically, you know, get in your space or emotionally or whatever, you know, try to intimidate, like what I got running through my head is mama saying, don't be cattle, you know? And I know that means what we would now say, stand on your business and don't back down.
No, I love that.
And I imagine my mama winking at me in the moment.